considering my earlier role was basically to sell products and solutions for smart cities. See the definition of smart city, like whenever you see the word smart city, you visualize there are sensors, there are cameras, there are devices all across the roads and everywhere. And it's all data is flowing in and there is a central command control where everything, all decisions are being taken. And then there are applications where everything will become smart. Your transport will become smarter. You will know exactly when the bus is going to come there. Your lighting is smarter. You know exactly which lights are going to be and how much energy consumption is happening. You would know parking. You would know your waste disposal, water pipeline. Everything is going to become smarter. That's the high level picture. And that's likely to happen. At least that's the intent of more or less every of those 100 cities that we are working on as smart cities. Now the challenge is that all the pieces of the smart city, whether it's going to be the endpoints which are sitting in the streets or in closer to your homes, or whether it's going to be the gateways which are basically carrying the data, or the network, or the central pieces of the city which is command control, or maybe the data layer. The exposure point is everywhere, and it can be touched, it can be played, and the impact is like huge. Huge could mean so huge that someone can get in and Brijesh was pointing out about some instances in global cities. Fortunately for us, considering we were not smart, everything was like unconnected, we were not exposed. But as we move to that kind of a world where everything will become connected, it takes not too much of an effort to switch off maybe lights of the whole city. It doesn't take too much of the effort to kind of keep playing with the transport system of the city. So that's where the big time impact or the exposure can happen. Now, the problem today, in considering that, and then now let me give the two views of the things. One is the vendor view where I was leading from the Cisco side. The intent is to sell. Intent is to kind of somehow push whichever way we can push. And even if we try to kind of build a story that yes, we should talk holistic, but we still are focused on transactions because currently the cities are building these cities, smart city pieces in silos. So some cities are doing Wi-Fi, the other city is picking up a tender and doing the integrated traffic management, the other city is trying to figure out a way to look at maybe making the parking, some waste bins deployed or some lighting part. They're all, these projects are being executed in silos. And there is no such framework or a plan that how will finally an integrated smart city will look like and how will it get integrated. So if till the time as perhaps as a leader in terms of technology vendor, we will focus on how do we build our sales or business around it. Now, perhaps from a city perspective, as we look at and as we are working along with the cities trying from a consulting point of view, and Shri also is here and he represents Deloitte. So practically, the view that we are seeing from the city perspective is that unless we look at it holistically, we will not be able to solve it. And whether we build a framework of security across the layers that just I talked about, or on the services perspective as we move forward, how we are going to manage it on a day-to-day basis, because deploying a firewall or deploying an IPS doesn't solve anything, because as we move ahead in every 2 months, 3 months, there is going to be new exposure points, a new way to kind of encroach it. And what it means is that we need to have more like a continuous security layer on top of every piece, whether it is going to be maybe managing and looking at all the exposure points of an endpoint, if somebody logging in through a camera and then trying to touch the central command, or maybe from the top down. So we need to build a services layer perspective. And what, at least maybe because there's always a practical point of view, how do we solve it? One side is utopia and the other side is real. So maybe in recent, one of the city suggestions, and that could be perhaps one of the guiding points, is that any of these smart city elements that we are putting up, what we are saying is that let's put a layer on top of it where we are going to be having more like a third party practice of analyzing each and every security layer and certifying it or maybe practically auditing it on a every 3 months kind of a picture. So that's at least helping that there is instead of putting cyber safety or security as the last item on the agenda, let it be a very, very critical part of the whole agenda of smart cities. That's something which we are pushing. As I move from my earlier assignment of just building my sales funnel or the numbers around it, be more proactive in looking at the longer term picture for a city.